And that's why it came out of our committee with a fairly hefty majority. It passed on the floor with a pretty hefty majority in the House.
Yeah, it was almost 2-1, wasn't it?
I'm not really sure.
Somewhere,
I know it was
somewhere in my
hefty
little
number. I know it was veto-proof at the time. That's the number that sticks in my head.
You know, I make notes while I'm reading and everything, and then I poke through them when I'm talking. But yeah, the vote was definitely. I mean, nobody could say that it was close or anything like that.
No,
it was pretty definitely almost 2-1.
I think people recognize that this fundamental issue that of local control, and that's where this bill teeters. Are we taking away local control by saying IB is a problem? And some of the other issues that the critics have brought up are some of the other.
209 to 102. Yeah.
Pretty much 2-1, isn't it?
Oh, thank you.
That may be an important question coming up.
No, that was when I made the note to myself to tell you that a Bedford resident said it was a sneak back job.
I kind of like that, actually.
You like that, huh? Yeah. I'll give you
the thing that thank you. The thing that I'm confused about now is I'm still reading when people talk about this bill as you know, Merrimack Valley is putting in the IB option, or Bedford put in the IB option, and this was a fundamental issue that came up in the House Education Committee. I don't see the option in Merrimack Valley. When you have a child in 4th grade, they're in IB. What's the option? You know, where is? And I could understand that if you were saying we're running parallel tracks. They're not. I've not seen it anywhere. Now, you can, to be fair, you can, in Bedford, my understanding is you could be a student that could weave through the maze and not be influenced by IB, I think. I may be wrong about that, and I'm not seeing any head shaking, so I'm not sure about that. But you can't certainly do that in Merrimack Valley. You are. This is it, and you're it from 1st grade now through almost high school.
Well, I mean, I know that there certainly are lots and lots of arguments. One that kind of jumped out at me, and you kind of hit on it a little bit, but the whole IB connection to the Earth Charter. And when I saw some of the people who were the big supporters of the Earth Charter, one of them being Mikhail Gorbachev, I was like, whoop.
He's an author.
Right. Yeah.
He's an author of the Earth
He is an author. Yeah. And, I mean, again, so that people understand, they advocate the redistribution of wealth among and within nations, the population control, they advocate that. They advocate military disarmament, which I think a lot of people in the United States would have something to say about that. And there seem to be some other things as well. Kind of what jumped out at me, and I'm sure if there's anything, if I'm wrong, please, you know, correct me. But one of the things that I kept reading over and over again, that there was no empirical evidence that IB students were winding up doing better than AP Advanced Placement students.
That's true.
Which might be, you know, a good time to segue over to you, because, you know, your son, right?
Right.
He's a junior at the high school, so this would have been his first year in the IB?
Correct.
Okay.
And he is not, for the record, he's not in the diploma program, but he is.
What certificate? Is that the option, or can you? Or is it just you can take a course if you want to without seeking a certificate? I'm a little unclear on that.
Really, you get a certificate regardless. If you take an IB course, there's a certificate, whether you pass the test or not.
Okay.
But as Representative Hill was talking about, there's really no option. At Bedford High School right now, there's 5 AP classes. So if you're
interested, 5?
Only 5.
Really?
None of them are math, none of them are science. So if you're particularly interested in math or science, which of course is part of the graduation requirements, and you're an advanced student or you're interested in a challenging course, there is no other option. So because of that, I guess my son is currently taking an AP class and an IB class right
Do you happen
now.
to know how many IB classes there are? I'm surprised to hear there are only 5 AP. I would have thought there were a lot more.
Off the top of my head, I would say roughly 10 to 15 IB classes that cover pretty much the spectrum.
Right, so he really had no option where he's on that track that he's really interested in that subject matter. He had to go to the IB.
Right, and it's been interesting. I guess before I had kids, I think like a lot of parents in town probably didn't think much about high school until you're there.
Yeah.
So IB was there when he hit the school. And of course, as a freshman and even a sophomore, you don't think about it too much. But I kind of started doing a little bit of research on my own, and I would read some of the letters that would show up every once in a while in the paper, and from Anne Marie sometimes. And frankly, at the time, as I started learning a little bit about it, there was sort of this issue of there's this loss of sovereign control, and sort of we're giving up control to the UN, or some sort of nebulous term like this, and it almost sounded like a conspiracy theory or something. And I wonder if maybe some of the other parents in town maybe think that if they haven't researched it yet. But as I dug in a little bit more, found out that there is something to that. But then I also even realized that that's only one part of it. That's the values piece of it, where IB very much promotes a certain set of values. But there's also the methodology, how how the courses are taught. It's all sort of student-led as opposed to teacher-led. My son right now it's a good kind of a comparison with, he's in an AP class right now and an IB class. He comes home every day and says, I have homework in AP. If I see him studying, it's always AP. IB is, he was wrestling with something with on the Mac the other day, and that was consuming most of his time doing a project that really was for IB. I would probably term more busy work. And interestingly enough, I know both teachers, not well, but I know both teachers. I want to be clear, the teachers I think are excellent. I think we have great teachers in the school. They are very much not in control in IB. There are certain specific methodologies that are, to become an IB school, you have to adhere to their methodologies, as well as the programming and so forth. So,
now, how does your son feel? Which class does he like better? The AP or the
AP? He feels like he's told me some of the time we spend is learning how to answer a question, how to structure your answer, which on the surface sounds okay.
In the IB?
In the IB course. Okay. But the reasoning for that is because this is getting ready for an assessment that's going to go who knows where, to France or Australia or somewhere to be assessed. That's the way IB works. This information goes overseas to be assessed. And it's, I think oftentimes when people take a test, students take a test, they know their teacher. They know what the teacher's looking for. They know how to respond. So there's more time spent, he said, on how do we construct these answers so that they're going to be evaluated or halfway around the world by people we don't know and generate a good result.
Wow.
And just to jump in here, that too is one of the issues that the House Education Committee is concerned about, and we don't have all the answers. We have very strong safeguards on student information leaving the schools. We've spent millions on a program called the Unique Pupil Identifier.
You even have that wording right in the bill about the security of the
Absolutely.
information. Yeah.
And that's part of the study committee, but also one of the reasons that we felt that this is necessary to look at immediately. The safety of student information that's leaving not only New Hampshire, but leaving the country. And I know for a fact that there are student names going, and the schools that the students attend. We would have a severe problem with that if it was leaving a school on any other information here now. So I don't know.
Especially this day and age, and with terrorism and all the other crazy stuff.
Well, the kids, I think it was Bedford that was doing, might have been wrong, but they were doing video projects, and the discs were going, the computer discs were going around the country, and other students could respond back to I think it was the Bedford students, directly. And so they had the name of the student.
Directly? You mean right at their home computer or whatever?
I think it came through the school.
Okay.
But they knew where to send the information for
Okay.
feedback on that project. That to me seems to be a direct violation of our safety policies and principles, pure and simple. So that to me would in and of itself would be reason for me to say we need to put a halt to this and at least study it and look at it further. But if we're sending information, it's one thing. I have less of a problem with the values program when it's in high school, because by then parents have had the ability to put values and their own stamp on their child. It's a whole nother problem for me when we're doing values assessments and teachings from first grade on. That seems to be an issue. And I don't understand, quite frankly, everything that I've read on constructivism seems like it works well for some children, but I believe that it doesn't work for all children. And I wonder about the special needs kids, and I wonder about anyone else in these classes. As I say, it's not an option. You are in these classes. If you have a child that doesn't work well with constructivism or any of these kinds of programs,
well, some kids do need a lot more structure. There's no question about it. And they do need that supervision.
My son may be one of them. I don't know, but he has said, you know, I feel like in an AP class, I now know this, you know, and we move on to the next topic, and I know this. In IB, he says, I feel like I'm learning, you know, it's just much more nebulous, and I feel like he learns half as much.
Around, I bet, in a way, right?
Right.
So imagine the kids in Merrimack Valley, if all they had were the IB courses. You know, if your son had nothing but that floating around feeling, there's got to be kids that, and that's who I'm hearing from, those parents. And I've heard of a number that have pulled their children out.
Really?
Right. Well, and the other thing that I think is important is the whole values topic that maybe is controversial, and some people think there is that issue, and some people don't think there is. That's a separate issue, whether you agree with that or not. Totally separate issue. The methodologies everyone should be against, in my opinion. It's not the best way to teach kids. It does not produce the best results. There are other options out there. There's, I think, people that think that there's been some sort of coup against the town or against IB, that, you know, how could somebody tell us we can't do this? Well, you know, the State Department of Education, the Federal Department of Education gives us boundaries on education all the time. This bill would potentially be one of those. So, you know, it's something that I think is, you know, the methodology, if you just look at that in and of itself and analyze that and study that, I think it's pretty clear it does not produce the best results.